Hi everyone, and welcome to our April info session for Coder Academy. Thanks so much for taking some time out of your lunch break to join us. I'm Charlotte. We're just going to wait for a couple more people to tune in and come online. While we're waiting, just pop in the chat box where you're tuning in from. So I'm in Sydney. Just let us know where you're tuning in from. Just find the chat box here. Hello, hello, everyone. It's very quiet. Okay, welcome, welcome. Come on in. Thanks so much for coming, guys, in your lunch break. So while people are coming on the live chat there, I'll just make a start very shortly. So I'm Charlotte from the enrollment team. Okay, so we'll be doing a presentation today very shortly. So we'll start with an acknowledgement of country. In the spirit of reconciliation, Coder Academy acknowledges the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea and community. We pay our respect to their elders, past and present, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people today. So today we have a special session, which will be a little different to our normal info sessions. First, I'll go through a very quick rundown of our Web Dev Bootcamp at Coder Academy, and then we'll have a panel discussion featuring our educator, Alex, and our partnership team, Laureen and Stephen. Because we've been listening to a lot of feedback from people over the past few weeks. We've reached out to you on socials and collected your most burning questions about Coder Academy Web Development Bootcamp, and we've pulled them together into the top questions from our live chats as well and past webinars, and today we will be answering them all. And we've gathered our expert crew, so our partnerships and educators, to give you the inside scoop from course content to career outcomes and everything in between. This is the team at Coder Academy, myself, Charlotte, and I've got Tom, my colleague, who won't be joining us today, but we are the go-to people to reach out for any questions about courses, fees, or enrollment inquiries. We also have some of our Coder Academy crew on our live chat here today, who'll be answering any questions you have, and they'll also be collecting questions in the live chat to be answered at the end as well. Just a bit of housekeeping with the live chat, everyone. So you may have already popped your the city of where you're from, but there's two boxes there. You might see a chat box and also a Q&A one. So we're going to be using the chat box here, and you'll see there's a toggle there for everyone or hosts and panelists. We want you to use everyone. Okay, so we can all see your questions easily. Now let's meet our panel members. So I'm going to ask everyone to come on. We've got Alex Holder. Say hi, Alex. How you going?
Hello, hello. I'm one of the educators at Coder.
Great, thanks so much. And we've got Stephen. Hey, Stephen.
Good afternoon, everyone. How are we?
Good, good. And we've got Laureen. How you going,
Hey.
Laureen?
Thank you for joining us.
Beautiful. Thanks so much, guys, for taking some time out of your day today. We'll say ciao for now. We'll see you in a little bit. Thanks. Beautiful. All right, guys, so I'll go through the course now. So first of all, who employs full stack web developers? There are IT companies like Vodafone, JB Hi-Fi. There's retail, like your typical online shopping platforms that you would use every day. Financial institutions like fintech, banking apps and web services, and digital services, so data analysis or support engineers. The typical salary starts at about 65,000 to 75,000, and then reaching an average of 120,000 per year. There is a 30% job growth within the next 5 years, that is, according to the Labour Market Insights a couple of years ago. And full stack development remains one of the most in-demand IT skills. Why study the bootcamp, and who is it ideal for? So the course is really good for career changers or people who want to start a career later in life. Many skills are transferable from other careers and thus can be applied to coding. The coding bootcamp is also good for those wanting to upskill, so where you can learn new coding languages. And lastly, it's a great alternative alternative rather to university if you want a faster, more industry-focused course. Now, the bootcamp itself, look, you don't need any prior coding knowledge at all. Just a basic understanding of computers would be great. This course is fully accredited. It's a higher education course. It's a diploma in web development. You can get credit into other courses in IT at uni after completing it. The next intake is the 2nd of June and it goes for 10 months. There's a 4-week optional industry placement afterwards. The delivery is 100% online. However, the classes are live. So you can basically connect from the comfort of your own home. The classes are on Tuesday and Thursday nights from 7 to 9. So it's really convenient after work. You can hop on home, have your dinner, and then, join the live class. And we have a Saturday morning session as well from 9 to 1:30. These classes are mandatory. However, they are recorded if you miss it or if you want to refresh, have a little review. So altogether, that's 8 hours of scheduled classes. You will also be required about 23 hours of recommended self-study on top of that. Additional support, we do have support hubs as well, where you can make an appointment with one of our educators, such as Alex today. He's based in Sydney, but we've got also hubs in Brisbane and Melbourne. We also give academic support online through Discord. The price of the course is $15,000 for that full 10 months. You can pay via Fee Help or through Easy Debit Payments month on month. Okay, so we can pop the Fee Help information if you don't know what that is in the chat box there. Now, let's deep dive into the course. Just to give you a bit of run through, it comprises rather of 2 terms. In the first term, we'll be learning about you'll be building rather a web-based portfolio. You'll learn about HTML, CSS, Python programming. You'll build a terminal application and use Python, which is an augmented language, with Flask, which is a framework. In term 2, you'll be learning about JavaScript, deployment, React, which is a framework, and you'll build a full stack web app for a client. You'll be doing this in a team, and this will be your final assessment. You'll also learn about DevOps fundamentals, AWS usage, and Docker. There's also an optional industry placement for a minimum of 4 weeks. And Laureen and Stephen are here to ask any questions or answer any questions and go into a bit more detail about that as well if you're interested. At the end of this bootcamp, you will have the skills and knowledge to be a job-ready full-stack junior developer. Some more information we can find in the website. We can pop that in the chat there. Any specific questions about academia? So some of these languages you may never heard of, or you want to find a bit more information. This is a great question to ask Alex a little bit later on. So just pop that question in the chat there if you do. And there are many other job outcomes as well. So maybe Alex can touch on that a little bit later on. Now, so our partners, we've got a huge selection of partners that range from banks to IT companies. So you can see here, we've worked really hard to gain connections with these companies to give you the best possible work experience or industry experience there is. Some of these are startups, others are really well-known brands. All these companies have different requirements and not all of them work with us at the same time. So for example, Epsilon took on someone in August last year who did so well that they extended an offer of employment to that person, which is awesome. This is a great result. However, also meant that due to the new person taking up their resources, they won't be able to host again until June this year or maybe even later. Okay. Another example is Magentus prefers people that already have some experience or a background in healthcare, and instead of hosting people for an industry placement, they rather hire straight away. Another one is Hismile. Sorry if my pronunciation is terrible. Only wants students that can do full face-to-face placements, as they are very big on company culture. Okay, so some can be remote, some can be face-to-face. Some companies only host students for placements, some hire straight away, and some hire the graduates after their placement. So it does vary greatly. The important thing to remember is that the partnerships team, which is Lau and Stephen, will take all these considerations into account and try to match you up with a company that also fits your needs. So it's really important to verbalize that and be really clear when you have an interview with them. So we've got a scholarship that's available for every intake. We recognise that people come from all different diverse backgrounds and we really want to showcase and support them. So a lot of women also and people from very different backgrounds apply for this scholarship. It's a really great opportunity. It gives you 50% off all course fees, and for this boot camp, for the 10-month boot camp for domestic students. So we can pop some more information in the chat there, but there's more information on our website too. So make sure to check that out. Usually the applications close about 2 weeks before the intake, so you've got a bit of time before June. Now, how do you apply? So to apply, you fill in an online application form through our website. Then we'll send you a letter of offer and you sign that and just provide a bit of proof of academic completion and also a photo ID. And then there's an online orientation that you start before you begin the course. Entry requirements are having access to a computer and internet connection, be at least 17 years older or 7 years old or older. Students who are under 18 will just need a support letter from your parent or guardian, and you just need a high school education equivalent to year 12. We also accept Cert 4, diploma or degree. All right, so keep those questions coming. If you have any queries about enrollments, me or Alex will be more than happy to answer about that. Now, this is just a very brief overview, guys. So if you want more of a deep dive into our Web Development Bootcamp, the next info session will have a bit more information and also about our other courses. So make sure to check that out. The next one's on the 20th of May, which is a Tuesday at the same time, 12:30. So yeah, hopefully you can join us. That's the QR code there. All right, so that's it from me for now. We are going to now stop sharing, and we're going to invite our lovely panel team out again. We've got Laureen, Stephen, and Alex. So we're going to start our Q&A or questions that people have pitched forward from the social media, from live chat, from all over. So we've got everyone here. Awesome. Alrighty. So can I start with an academic question? So for you, Alex, can you maybe elaborate a little bit more on the programming languages that will be covered in the web development course?
Yeah, and there's a few little ones that'll pop up along the way in the course as well, but the main ones for us are HTML, CSS, Python, and JavaScript. There are also some frameworks and libraries that we use with those languages. So for example, React, that's a big front-end framework that's for JavaScript. So things that are like connected to those to help us build all of our web apps and servers and things like that. There's also some smaller languages, things like Markdown, so we can do our documentation. Even looking at stuff like Terraform's language to help automate some DevOps stuff, and YAML for GitHub Actions automation as well, again in DevOps. So we have a whole big pile of languages in the course. There's yeah, there's a lot to cover. It's really cool.
Wow, I feel like, oh my gosh, that must be so overwhelming when you're a first-time student. Like, is it at a beginner level? Do you need any experience at all in coding?
No. So with the languages that we cover, like we cover the introduction of them and then dive into some of the more complex stuff. So you don't need any prior experience. If you do have prior experience in those languages, that's totally okay, because that means that you can jump to the cool stuff as well. But we make sure that everyone can get through to the same level, get to the same skill level by the end of the content in the course. So you don't need any prior knowledge for any of those.
And how big are your classes on average? So how many do you have per course?
Oh, I don't remember about average, but the one I'm teaching at the moment, we've got 26 people in the course. So that's the course for a cohort that's also on Tuesdays and Thursdays at the moment. The cohort sizes, they do vary. So I want to say like mid-20s sounds like a nice comfortable range for me, but yeah.
Yeah, like a regular high school sort of number. Alrighty. All right, so let's have Stephen. I'd love to ask you an industry-related question. So how does an industry placement actually help you get a job after the diploma?
Yeah, so it ends up being quite a hands-on experience environment. And due to like the relationships that we have, everyone knows what the quality is as well. Talking about Alex there with what you study. And so there's already that confidence from our partners. And so there's quite it's a hands-on environment. It's very project-based the same way that the study is. It really helps you build that confidence though, because what you think in terms of what you've picked up and applying it might be a little bit different. And that's where, again, having like a safe environment lets you do that really well. And we find that a lot of our grads, They use these to build connections, and we do often see converting placements into full-time roles depending on the company.
Mm. Mhm.
More of the ones across Brisbane, Sydney, and Melbourne. We found that quite high.
Mm.
And then it's really like as well the tangible experience. So this is something that you put on your portfolio, you can put on your resume. And it's really like that's how you're setting yourself apart when it comes to those entry-level jobs when you are applying. So yeah.
No, thanks for that. We actually have a question on the live chat for the partnerships team. So either you or Lau can answer. What has your success for placements and employment been like for WA/Perth students?
You want me to take that one?
Yeah, go
Yeah,
for it.
if you want, yeah.
Sorry in advance, I'm a little bit congested still. I've just been sick, so for those listening, apologies for the raspy voice. We have students, because this is an online course, students are coming from all over Australia to do the course, which is great. However, we have our base campuses in the three big cities, Brisbane, Sydney, and Melbourne. Whereas we do try to have industry relationships in other cities. It depends also in how many students we have in those cities, in how many partner relationships we have. So when it comes to students that come from Perth, we don't have that many students in Perth. And that also means that we don't, unfortunately, have many relationships with Perth-based companies. So when it comes to success, we are looking for students that are outside of those three main cities that I just mentioned. We are looking more so for remote placements. And so we're trying to find a spot where you can actually do your industry placement remotely. That changes vastly though, as in it's very different. Sometimes, you know, we have more remote options available and other times we have less. So it's really hard to put a specific number on that. But we try our best to find a placement experience for everyone, whether you are based in Perth or whether you are in Brisbane or in Sydney or Melbourne. That makes sense.
That's so good to hear. How about overseas students? Not so much. It's mainly domestic, isn't it?
Yes, yeah. So Coder Academy is a domestic, at this stage, offering only for domestic students, the domestic course. So we don't do placements overseas. Having said that, we have in like last year, we had an industry talk. So we have regularly industry speakers. We had an industry talk from 2 developers from Paris, which is really cool. And we actually were able to do a remote placement with them, but it's really hard when it comes to things like that because you have the time difference as well. You know, we're 8 to 10 hours ahead depending on where you are. So yeah, normally just in Australia.
Yeah. So in terms of proportion of remote versus face-to-face, would you say there's more remote or it depends from?
Not anymore. It used to be a lot remote when it was COVID time. But now that there's a very big push of back into the office and we are with placements as well. So, you know, there is still hybrid, but there is a big push for face-to-face. Yeah.
Just in general,
so
yeah.
Not that many remote options, unfortunately, anymore. So if we do get remote opportunities in, they go to the remote students first.
Got it. Yeah. All right. Hopefully that answers your question there, Lee. So back to you, Alex. In the course, is there more of an emphasis of front end or back end, or is it quite equal?
It's fairly equal. So what we do in the course, we cover full stack development, which is kind of a combination of the two. So front end being what you'd see in the web browser, back end being what you'd see with the servers, APIs, and databases. We make sure that you learn both, so you can actually do either end if you have a preference for it, making sure you've got that exposure to both to make that decision. And if you like all of it, then you can go and find full stack roles where you can do all of that in your professional work as well. So it's it's a very it's a very mixed amount, as in we do front end and back end and combine them all together.
Nice one. And he's saying that other projects quite practical, or they're more theoretical, like more practical.
Yeah, this kind of segues into Jesse's question, if that's all right as well. So with
absolutely.
the projects that we do, they're all very hands-on. So it's stuff that helps you like building your portfolio, building things to show in your portfolio, building things that you would be realistically doing in a workplace. So for Jesse's question, how does this course compare to other web development courses offered across Australia, i.e. UTS? What we've seen in the past, and it's kind of a funny, sad, shocking example, but we've seen people come to our bootcamp while doing courses at UNSW, RMIT, or
Oh.
UTS, while doing their masters. And it's like in those courses, they are just not doing anything hands-on. So they come to us, they actually get the practical skills that helps them land the jobs because we are teaching them, like we are showing everyone what happens in a workplace. And a lot of the other universities don't seem to do that very well.
So that goes back to, even what Stephen was saying about industry, having that really good work experience so that you're ready for the industry as well. Oh, great.
Exactly.
Awesome. And there was a question about the internship, that it's a minimum of 4 weeks. Can either Stephen or Lau elaborate on that? What does that mean?
Yeah, so it's a placement because there's a bit of a difference where it is something that you do after you're graduating. And that way it is much more of a work experience opportunity. And when we say minimum of 4 weeks, that is because we recognize that we try and get everyone in for full time. That might be like 2 or 3 days a week. You're meant to be part of a team. You're meant to come in, and that's coming back to what Lau was saying about face to face and hybrid and remote. Because the supervising part of it, we found that like team culture and building up that rapport comes in quite handy, and that all loops back to why it's a minimum of 4 weeks, because that's something that we set with the partner. In saying that, we have had some pretty much right on 4 weeks, but that's been literally full-time work. So you're basically getting like 5 days a week, quite full on, which can be quite a bit too much for students as they've just come out. So you're ramping up literally right until big projects, and we're cognizant of that as well. So we're trying to make sure that it is a good environment for you, so that you've got all the opportunities to succeed. And as well, we really do push for feedback through the sessions, through your placement, and that's where that feedback comes in handy, because you might think you've been doing something really well, but maybe you've got to brush up on certain skills, and that's where having that minimum of 4 weeks really does help. And we've often found as well that companies will extend, depending on what's going on. Similar to I mentioned a couple, and I think a couple of the companies you mentioned, Charlotte, they've actually had many that extend on. They've done really well.
If I can add on to that, we say a minimum of 4 weeks because otherwise it's not really worth anyone's time. You need to invest in it, and they need to invest in it as well. Having said that, there are companies that say, I want to do 6 to 8 week, offer 6 to 8 weeks. And there's companies that say, we do a 3-month placement only. And we even have a company that says, we do it as a 6 months placement, but then it's like a probationary period, pretty much. And then after that, we hire you if you do well. So it's like in that case, you treat it like an extended interview. But that is if there's an opportunity for hire. That's definitely not always the case. So that is important to note. Our goal is to help the students get a foot in the door in the industry, so that they have some experience to show for when they do try and find a job afterwards. So we are not there to help them find a job. We are there to give them workplace experience that will help them secure a job themselves more easily. And that's why we say a minimum of 4 weeks, because otherwise, you don't really have enough time to learn anything new.
Yeah. And do people get a choice when they come up to the placement and they say, I want to work with this company or that one?
People can make suggestions, but unfortunately, no, because it's not up to us to decide where we place them. It's up to the companies. Because it's a postgraduate placement experience, it's not part of the course. So it's something we offer afterwards when they already finish. And because of that, it doesn't mean, oh, I need to do 120 hours and then I get credit for my course, and with that credit I can continue. No, this is an additional experience. And because of that, it is pretty similar to applying for jobs. We spread profiles to companies that say, I have an opportunity available. So it can be a company that says, I have an opportunity available for 2 students, 2 graduates to do 8-week placement. That can be paid or unpaid. I'll tell a bit more about that
Oh,
later.
okay. Yeah.
And that can be in a full-time or part-time capacity, hybrid or any office and all. So, and then after that, they also say, we are looking specifically for someone that has a passion for front-end development, you know, that is very outspoken, or that's, you know, so they say this is what we are looking for.
Very
And there might
specific,
be a
yeah.
potential for hire. So it's almost like recruitment.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then based on that, we send student profiles with resumes to that company, and the company then looks at those and makes a selection based on that information. These are the people I want to shortlist for an interview, and we then help the students every step of the way. We help the students with a creation of a tech resume. We help the students with interview preparation skills. We help them, you know, with every step of the way to get there. And so based on that, then on the interviews, the company then decides, I would like to invite that person, you know, to do and offer them a placement. So that's why we have some influence, because we could start to get to know the partners, the industry partners. We know, hey, you know, they might know what they're looking for. You should definitely invite that person for an interview. But we can't decide for them. And that is what makes our job a challenge. Also exciting at the same time.
Yeah. No, thanks for elaborating. That's both of you. Thank you very much. That's awesome. So back to you, Alex. I'll ask an academic related question. Considering that a lot of people, when they come into this course, they might be working full-time, part-time, they might have kids or whatever, and I'm assuming that they're mostly mature age students. Is there much flexibility in scheduling?
Yes and no. So our
We may be losing
Alex's
Oh, no.
internet, that's all right.
Lost it.
Oh no, hang on, am I back?
Yes, you're back.
Zoom is telling my internet is worse. We had a delivery. It's may have just hogged some internet. So as I was saying, I completely blanked on the question. It was
That's
the
okay, no,
flexibility of
it's a
the
flexibility in scheduling,
Yes.
so you can do part-time or whatever.
Yeah, so our live sessions, they're at those set times. So the 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. for Tuesdays and Thursdays. Saturday was the 9 to 1. So those are at set times, but you can catch up through recordings. There's also the online content that you can go through in your own time at your own pace as well. So as long as you're still keeping up with the content in that way, if you've got things popping up, that's okay. The thing that I'm telling the students at the moment is like, just keep on communicating with us. So regardless of whatever you've got popping up, like there's a couple of birthdays, marriages, overseas trips and things in the class that I teach at the moment. As long as they're still communicating about what's going on, if they need help with anything, they can always reach out to us. So there's always ways to keep up with all of the content, even if you can't make it to those live sessions and things like that.
And do you do makeup classes, Alex? Or like say if I've got like a holiday booked to Europe for 4 weeks, that's probably not gonna probably not a good idea.
The makeup classes are typically a rare thing if there's like a public holiday that no one else is available to cover, or if we've gotten, too much stuff to cover, which doesn't really happen that often. So it's possible, but it just doesn't really happen that often.
Got it. Okay. Good. No, thanks for that. Good to know. Now I've got another industry question. There was a question about paid or unpaid. So I think you, Lau, did you want to elaborate a little bit on that? I think you mentioned it a little bit. That was quite interesting.
Yeah, for sure. So placements can be paid or unpaid. We try to have our industry partners always offer a paid placement. However, sometimes that is not an option for them because there is no budget. When it comes to unpaid placements, there are certain rules that a company has to adhere to in order to do them. Fair Work has some very strict rules on that. So it pretty much says that in order to avoid people to take advantage of unpaid work, it's all about teaching the students or the graduate and something more. So the benefits should outweigh for the student than for the company. The company cannot let them do any work or any live work that they are profiting from in any way or form. So
Mm.
when we do find companies that do unpaid work, it is a separate project, completely set alone, in a sandbox environment for a limited amount of time, where they say, okay, this is what we're going to teach you, and this is what you're going to learn, and at the end of it, this is what you can do. It's pretty cool. But then they get, mentorship throughout, and at the end of that, that's when they have learned that. So that's a setting where it is allowed to do unpaid work placement. And we find, some companies then after that say, okay, we are just here to give back to the community, so we do an unpaid placement and that's it. Whereas other companies say, oh, actually, we are very closely looking at how this student is interacting, and based on that, we decide whether we want to hire them or not and add them to our team. Yeah. When it comes to a paid placement, a company can basically let a person do anything, because it's a workplace relationship. So and it's still obviously important to us that you teach the students something. So we are on top of that, but it is easier because then there is a reward in a monetary way for letting them do the work that they want to do. That makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah.
We've got a live chat question for Alex. How is the offline or self-study content presented? Is it via power slides, videos, interactive content?
Short answer is yes. Basically all of the above. So it depends on the topic. So some of the content might be, simple text. Some of the content is interactive programming workspaces. Some of it's slides or videos or like going to external resources. It just depends on the topic, because there is a lot of different content in this course. It's a very jam-packed course. There's no we try and present the content as well in a couple of different ways, because we've seen that everyone does learn best from different types of content as far as like formats go. So we do try and present those different options, show those different formats, making sure that there's at least a couple of different ways to see a lot of the content there. And then we also add on the live session. So if that self-study content doesn't quite sit right with you, you can ask questions and come to the live sessions as well. So it's not really a matter of doing those things in isolation. It's a mix of all the formats all at once.
No, that's very well answered. Thank you so much. That's great. Now, so a little bit for you, Stephen. So how do you help match students to companies based on their interests, or is it more general? Like I think Lau touched on that with the resume. Like, are there any other skills or something, or about the character or the behavior of the student? Like, how do you match? How do you make that good match?
Yeah, so part of the process during the once you get into the latter stages of your course, we do a couple of sessions where we would do our own presentation, and in that you'll find that we do an About Me survey, and so it's quite a detailed survey that goes through what you find is interesting, what you want to work on. As an example, we're working currently with a couple of people. One of the ladies, she's got a really decorated past as an animator. And she absolutely loves UI and UX because it's the creative side. We know that because of the About Me, and we know that we try to get relationships with pretty much every student that comes through, and so from that we take that information, and then coupled with what Lau has been saying about how we find what our partners are looking for, and that's where that marrying sort of happens, where okay, so your passion is, you've let us know that your passion is in this. All right, well, now we know, let's try and match you up. So it's important as well when you do share this information with us, that you're really clear on what your goals are. And we'll touch on it, I'm sure, in some other questions, but just mainly that's probably the main one, yeah.
And another thing I wanted to ask is the eligibility criteria for placements. I think Lau mentioned that as well. So one of you could just go, what do you need to do to get into an industry placement? Is there like a criteria? Like if you fail the class, then, that means you can't join.
No, yeah. So we do have some eligibility criteria in place. And what we are looking at are two main things. One of them is your academic grades, and the second is your professionalism and communication and how you interact with your peers as well as the staff at Coder Academy. So the academic one is an easy one, obviously, because we can just see that it's a black and white one. We look at the completion of term 1 average grade as well as part 1 of term 2, where you will be building a full stack web application with the MERN stack. But am I saying that right, Alex? Just correct me if I'm wrong.
It's
It's
all
the
good.
MERN project, I believe. So
Yep.
based on that, your score needs to be at least 70% or higher with all those combined in order to be eligible. And we also look at how is your communication? Are you active? Are you participating in class? You know, how are you interacting in your group settings in your projects? How are you interacting with your teacher? And so we asked the feedback from the educators as well in how people are. And the reason why that is important to us is because when we put students out into the industry, you're also representing not only yourself, but Coder Academy a little bit as well. So we want to make sure that you know how important it is to, you know, to be professional when you go on a workplace experience, that you are reliable, that when you agree to do something for 4 weeks and you be there every day, that you actually show up, you know, so that we can rely on the student as well, completing the placement and putting their best foot forward, so we can continue that relationship and make sure that we have additional opportunities in the future for other students that want to do a placement as well.
And with regards to communication, so in the last, say, 4 weeks or whatever of their course, is
No,
that when
it's
you
throughout
start?
their whole studies. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
The thing is, we start this process, the placement process, quite early on, as in it's only 10 months of the bootcamp, right? But about halfway through, I think it's, yeah, about halfway through, just over halfway through is when we start reaching out to the students saying, hey, we're going to start the placement process, because it takes a long time to, like I said, you know, I mean, Stephen said the About Me survey, we want to know all about you, about how to create that tech resume, which is not the same as a normal resume, and we explained the differences as well. You know, to give them all that information, to help them with LinkedIn profiles and set them up for success, so that when they do finish their course, that they're ready to go out into the industry and start hunting for those jobs, whether we get them a placement or not. So we want to make sure that they're industry ready by the time they finish.
And do they have to tell you ahead of time that they want to do a placement, or can they change
Yes.
last minute?
Yeah.
Oh, I want to do one.
No, so we do have certain deadlines in place, like with any, you know, any course. It's we say this is the deadline. If you can't make the deadline, you're out, unfortunately. We are very strict in that deadline, because we find if you cannot be punctual in that sense, how can we expect you to be punctual when it comes to your placement? So we are very strict in that way, that you need to you know, get your documents ready in time and say that you want to apply for a placement. And then once you are having that all done, it's fine, you know. We still help students that don't want to apply for a placement. They still can get back for their resumes or help with that. So we are there for career education and career support for those that do wish to get that. Yeah, so that's for everyone.
Great. No, thank you for that. That's very in-depth. That's great. To you, Alex, the web development bootcamp seems very structured with all the programs and all of that. I wonder whether students can choose specific areas of specialization within web development, or is it quite sort of structured? Everyone sort of goes through the same, you know, programs and such.
Yeah, in a diploma, it's kind of a short timeline for that, so we don't really have any electives or anything like that. We cover the core, most commonly requested sort of technologies and skills from our industry partners. So we make sure everyone's got that same baseline, but there's nothing stopping people from going and learning additional stuff. Like, I know TypeScript is always a popular one that those that do have the time and energy to learn, they'll go and learn that. But stuff like that, it's just a matter of how driven you are on top of all the baseline content we've got in the course.
Yeah, gotcha. Alrighty. Did you do the course as well, Alex? And do you specialize in one specific area? No. But do you have
I
like a past
haven't done
little
the
hobby?
course, but I do
Mm.
like the back end side of things a lot. So doing
Mm.
servers and APIs and databases, because that connects with not just websites, but for things like video games. So my background from before Coda is making video games. So making a back end application that lets my games have accounts and e-commerce like transactions and things like that. So back end, it's a very powerful area. I like that a lot.
If someone wanted to specialize or do further studies in IT, can they do that after the diploma?
Yeah, because I think it was mentioned as well, like the diploma is it's a higher education course, so you can get the
Mm.
credit for your first year of like a bachelor's if you wanted to do that. Just
Mhm.
depends on the university where you choose to study afterwards. So that whole recognition of prior learning process does vary from education provider around the country. But yeah, because it's a higher education diploma here at Coder Academy, you can get credit for further study.
Okay, yeah, perfect. Thank you so much. Back to you, Stephen. There was a question in social media. Can you use your placement as a resume or portfolio piece for future job applications? Is that
100%.
possible?
Yep,
Oh,
100%.
cool.
And it's
Mm.
expected.
Okay.
And a lot of
Mm.
the time, the partners will act as your reference as well, when it comes to that. So that's why it's quite a powerful piece, to be able
Mm.
to make that career transition, that career change with a reference, like a character reference as well, a technical reference. It goes
Mm.
quite a long way, definitely.
Okay, awesome. And we do have a question on the live chat for Alex again. Back to you. So the bootcamp starting on the 12th of May, is this going to be the part-time one, as TJ saw two schedules, part-time and full-time, which was a bit confusing. So can you elaborate on that?
I think we might need Mel to elaborate on that if she's around, but from what I
I'm pretty
understand,
sure.
it's
Sorry,
just the 12th of June.
it's the standard one, the 12th of
Yeah.
May.
Okay,
So
standard. All
no
right.
part-time enrollment that I'm aware of, just the 12th of June being the full-time load.
Yep. Oh, is it the 2nd of June? Or 2nd
Sorry,
of
what am I
12?
saying? I'm mixing up the
2nd of May.
dates. Yeah.
No, it's all good, all good. Too many twos.
2nd of
All
June.
right.
Yeah.
No, all good. Okay, thanks for that,
Cool.
TJ. Hopefully that helped. We can pop that in the live chat. It should be on the website, everything updated. Back to you, Alex, about the kind of support. So, so the course has live classes. You've got the, self-study, which is about 23 hours another. What kind of support will students receive during and even after the course, which is links to our placement team as well? So can you talk about during, and then maybe Lau can talk about after the course, what kind of support?
Yeah. So we have the online Discord is kind of the main way. So that's where everyone can just jump online and chat and work together. So that's throughout the entire course, and no one really gets booted from that either. So it does persist after your bootcamp is done.
Oh,
So you can
great.
still chat, get support, share events, share success stories, and any sort of learning and stuff like that. It's essentially it's your first community. So any sort of support systems we try and build up, we try and make sure that they can persist and be useful for you throughout your entire learning. So they'll be a long-term thing.
Well, that's awesome. And Lau, how about afterwards? Like, say I have a contract, I'm like, oh my gosh, is this resume good enough? And can I get a bit of support?
Yeah, so they can obviously still reach out to us directly, but all students as well, once they finish, once they graduate, we send them an invitation to a LinkedIn group called Coder Academy Graduates. And on that group, we post jobs that are being presented to us through our industry partners. So anyone that is interested in applying can do so through that. We also use the same Discord server that Alex was talking about. So it actually only grows and grows, right? Because people don't leave.
Yeah.
Post information on there. So we regularly post about events, about networking events that we think would be really good to attend. And I also once or twice a year post about graduate opportunities. So it's like sorry, I'm talking like that. Some companies, some companies have graduate programs in place. So the larger companies have graduate programs in place, and they don't do random internships or industry placements. They do only their graduate programs, and they say our next cohort starting will be in February 2026, and we are opening that up in June 25 already. And it's a bit hard because our students obviously are doing only a 10-month course. So when it comes to a bachelor's degree, it's easier to plan ahead when you have multiple.
Yeah.
But once we are aware of them, we try to post it straight away. So February and March is when they go live. And some of them go live for later in the year and others go for the following year. But it is good to know for those that are thinking about furthering their study or wanting to do something else, or, you know, want to still apply for that. So we post those links to start applying for it now, so they are aware of that. Yeah. And other thing we do as well is industry talks. So we invite people from the industry to share their knowledge with our students. This is for current students, but because it is an open Zoom link and anyone that is in there can still join, anyone can pretty much join. And this has really cool topics that are current, that are trending, and that are good to know. It can be something very technical, you know, it can be we had one about AI agents recently, but we can also be very practical about how to prepare for a technical interview from someone.
Oh, great.
Technical interviews, you know, things like that. So we also have regularly alumni joining. So for International Women's Day, we had an alumni panel with 3 women that have finished their Coder Academy course in 21, 22, 23, something like that, you know, and have all gone in different directions. And then we hear about how they have gone and give them tips and tricks for current students in how to use that. So it's pretty valuable information that anyone can still get for free, as long as they stay on top of that, pretty much. Yeah.
Oh, that actually answers the question about how often do students get to interact with industry before and after. So afterwards they have that opportunity to, you know, interact with industry alumni as well. It's great.
But to add on to that, we do urge all students to interact with industry themselves, because it's so important to get yourself out there. And a lot of people don't realize that, but networking is so valuable. So a lot of our students have gotten jobs through networking events, through participating in random hackathons that are organized, you know, meetups. There's always meetups organized. It's like, okay, you learn React. Now in Brisbane, you have a meetup called Bris React or React Bris, you know, and
That's
in
great.
there you have one company that hosts it. So you have people from that company, but you also have all the other people, you know, 3 other organizers in there from different tech companies. So you have 4 tech companies represented there already that you can start building relationships with. And building those relationships is so important for you to when you want to go job hunting afterwards, because when people start to get to know you more and more, it's just easier to find a job afterwards.
Yeah, absolutely. I had no idea. That's really great. And like you would at a networking event, you'd have maybe your business card, or you'd be able to talk about yourself, your passions, what your driving
Really
forces
hard
are.
and scary, but a lot of people are like, oh, I don't want to do that, you know, but it's so valuable. It's so interesting. Yourself a goal. I'm gonna talk with one new person tonight.
Yes.
And okay, you know, you're already getting somewhere. So that's really good. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Jessie's been really active on the live chat. Thanks, Jessie. So she said, in the chat rather, how will the future demand for web developers be influenced by concerns about AI potentially diminishing their role? So I guess we can all talk about that. What do you think about AI? Maybe Alex, you want to start?
Yeah, for me, there's like 2 main forks in the road for AI usage in web development. Neither of those forks are about any roles being diminished, because AI is just a tool. So for some of the more basic stuff, you can definitely use AI to help just generate things quickly. But then as you get more and more advanced and skillful in your work, doing the more complex stuff, like for example, at my level of doing like senior backend development, I have not really found any sort of usefulness from AI, because we have to spend so much time correcting its output. It's not like a lot of people think of AI as sentient sci-fi AI, but it's not really that. It's more of just the text autocomplete that you'll see on your phones when writing a message. So
Mhm.
there's a limit to how useful it is, and when it is useful, it augments what we do. It doesn't really replace or diminish anything, at least from my perspective there.
Yeah, I
That's
think
great.
to add on to that, it's something that I found it's interesting. I feel like we start to work with a lot more startups, because teams now, it's the same in Alex, you probably know in the game side, because we work with some game studios too, is that the need for full crazy sized teams are no longer there, but they're able to be more agile in what they're doing, and you're getting a lot more exposure. And so I think to come back to your question that Jesse, like specifically in the AI side, I'm not seeing it too much as a concern as to diminishing the role. It's more just changing like you're needing to be a bit more creative about your role, and how you approach problems. It's an excellent problem solver. It's not like it won't answer the problem though, funny enough. Like it'll give you maybe the right direction, but as Alex has mentioned, the code is often very wrong. And I think like it's something that's still quite unknown. It's very much in its early days. So funny enough, like I feel like what I tell you today, by the time you finish your course, could be completely different, in terms of what tools are out there. But I think it's just about embracing it, embracing all the change that comes through, because it is making it faster. And that comes back to the startups. There's a lot more businesses trying out new things. With that comes new opportunities.
I think what's important to realize is that AI, yes, it can create code, but do you know how the code works? Do you know what it means? Do you know how to set up the code? And that's the thing that you need to know first. And that's what you learn here at Coder Academy. We teach you the foundations. We teach you how to learn, how to build code from scratch, and how everything works. And without knowing how it works, you can't steer the AI to work for you. And that is very important to know. Yes, the AI can teach you a lot, but you still need to know the foundations and why certain things work certain ways. And without that, you can't really do much, because you're still none the wiser. So I think that's important to note, that AI, yes, it is at this stage still a tool. I don't know how it is evolving in the next year or so, because time goes really, and it develops really fast. But it's not diminishing your role in anything. It's changing your role. So you need to be aware of it, and you need to learn how to work with it, and you need to use it to your advantage, and make sure that you are becoming an AI web developer that knows both, and then you can stand out in that way.
Just a funny, like a little industry insight. One of our partners actually asked, when they were asking for profiles, they'd asked me specifically if any of the graduates knew of any AI coding tools, or they were comfortable with working with them. Have they added it to their workflow? And I think I had about 4 or 5 different graduates that were possible for it, because they mentioned they were confident with it. So companies are starting to realize, so again, he was still looking for placements, but he was like, hey, can this person know how to use the skills, use the tools? They want to see that. They want to see that you're confident in using it, because if you're not using it, you're probably putting yourself behind. So like Lau said, embrace it all, use it, and yeah, I'm not too worried about it diminishing roles.
Is that how Coder Academy graduates typically stand out compared to, say, university graduates, that we've got those skills to be able to know how to code and the practical element
Yeah,
that Alex was
definitely.
saying, do you reckon? Yeah.
Yeah, big time. And that comes through years of reputation. We try to stay ahead of the curve wherever we can. And yes, having an accredited course in that way, it takes some time to build up the course. But we shifted from Ruby on Rails to Python as the major one, because that's where the industry was going. And that was a great thing for us. And so these are changes. There may be a change in 12 months' time where something is so groundbreaking that you should have it. And that comes down to, you know, why you study at Coder Academy.
What kind of feedback have companies told you both about the graduates? Like what kind of stand out apart from those coding skills? What other
I think
kind of great feedback?
When someone takes on, you know, like we have actually Cognos is one of our companies down here in Sydney. Reese, he had done his placement for, I think it ended up being 6 months. He got double extended. And he's now been there for just over a year. So this was like 18 months ago. He's now he's like risen in the ranks quite well. He's a valued member there. He's actually doing some of the supervising for Coder Academy.
Oh, wow.
Because he's a trusted member. He's now like he's a senior, like he's one of their leads there as well. So there's a lot of like the respect part of it comes into play there. There's a lot of the relationships that Lau and I have built over the years. That's where you're starting to see these differences.
I think also to add on to that, a lot of our students are career changers and upskillers, you know, so that means that everyone that well, a lot of people that we work with already have work experience, and that makes a big difference. And a lot of people that already have work experience and want to work in something else or make their career change, they have a certain fire in their belly to succeed. You know, they really want to succeed. So when they do go out on a placement, they're not, as you would call it, green in their communication. They're very good in communicating, and they are also eager to get started, and they want to show what they can do. And there is this imposter thing, you know, what everyone is having at the beginning, but you have that after every course and every beginning of a new job, that you're like, oh my gosh, I don't know what I'm doing. But when it comes to this, they do know what they're doing. And that is something that we get back from the industry. It's like, these people know what they're doing. So by now, that the industry partners that we've worked with, they keep coming back because they know exactly what they can expect on a skill level from what is being taught through Coder Academy. And it's very practical knowledge as well. So it's not, you know, they can go straight into it. They can deep dive into the work straight away because they already have that workplace experience, but it's now learning about the skills. And that is something that a lot of our partners come back with, finding very, very valuable. And say, look, this is something we really appreciate. And then they are not so much then looking anymore at, oh, I'm looking for someone that can do React, or I'm looking for someone. No, because we have industry partners that work with completely different stacks, like, you know, Golang and PHP, and something that we don't teach in Coder Academy, but they still take our students because they know they can learn quickly because we teach them all this in 10 months, and then they can hit the ground running because they know, okay, this is how I learn, this is what I need to do, and this is how I move forward. And then so they will be looking more so at cultural fit, you know, because we know exactly what to expect from Coder Academy students. So we are now looking for someone that fits in our team culturally as well. Yeah,
absolutely. What kind of example roles? Oh, sorry, go on.
Sorry, yeah, so that's why we are also putting an importance in professionalism, in how do people communicate, because it is something that is more and more important for our industry partners and what they are looking at. So if we know you are confident in your communication, you are eager to learn, you know, you are a go-getter, you want to get it done, great, you're probably going to be a good fit with one of our partners.
Yeah, and in saying that, what kind of roles, apart from a full stack developer, I guess this question's for everyone, like what other example roles can graduates, you know, apply for?
So it's funny because what I was talking about, the Coder Academy alumni panel talk, there were 3 students there, and they were doing all completely different things. So one was a web developer, which is great. The other was a platform engineer, which is something very different again. And then the third person was a UI UX designer. So
cool.
Depending on where your interest is, right? Because this course, yes, we teach you everything to become a full stack web developer, but maybe throughout the course you learn, actually, I'm very passionate about design or front end, or, and so you can put a bigger focus on that. Or actually, no, I want to focus more on backend and learn more about that. So that's something you can focus on. And then there's people as well that go on a placement and realize, oh, there is a lot of data scientists here. Let's go in that area and become, a data science person. So great, data analyst. It's different, but you can go, it sets you up in a good basis, and then from there on, it depends on where you want to go in what you can do. So you can go a lot of directions. And now with added DevOps skills in cloud, my goodness, you can become a cloud engineer. You can do DevOps is very, very high in demand. So if you can be a very generalist, developer that knows a lot about everything,
Yeah.
you're going to be fine.
That's awesome. Yeah, thanks for that. That's really good examples. Any other questions in the live chat before we finish up? We're just almost about to finish. Any other burning questions? No, well, I've finished a lot of my questions. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you both, Laureen and Stephen, and also Alex, with your all your experience, your knowledge, your skills. It's been a pleasure to talk you through all of that. Any last words you want to say as parting words? Alex, you want to say anything?
Sure, yeah. I mean, as part of what we do at Coder Academy, a lot of our work is just a matter of helping you succeed. So if you're, keen to learn how to code, keen to become a certain career path, we're happy to help you do that with whatever it takes to help you get there. So really keen to see people in the bootcamp.
Great, thanks so much. And Laureen, do you have any parting words?
No, yeah. Anyone that is interested in the course, feel free, obviously, to sign up. We are there to help you for any support afterwards, any career advice, and any step along the way from midway through to the end of your course, and then after that as well. Feel free to connect with us on LinkedIn as well if you have any additional questions.
Yeah, good to know. And yeah, with me and Tom, you can contact through us, and if you have specific questions, we can palm them off to Stephen and Lau, not a problem. And
I'd
Stephen,
say, the last thing would be all the best in this study journey. Like taking on a career transition, career change, or even if it is something that you're in tech already, and you just want an upskill, all the best. I think it's excellent. You're investing in yourself. You're finding more value in what you want to do in your career, and you want to take more control in that. All the power to you for it. And a lot of the guys here at the team, we sort of champion that, and a lot of us are career transitioners, and you can we often share our stories with the students and the grads, and so yeah, all the best to your study journey.
Right.
And look forward
Thanks,
to having
everyone. Yeah.
I saw one more
Yes.
question from TJ. He said, appreciate if you could update on the website regarding dates and what type of course it is. So TJ, if you go to the Coder Academy website, and if you click on the How to Apply button and scroll down, there you see the 10-month bootcamp, which is the standard course length, is starting on the 12th of May, and there is an Apply Now button right there. So the part-time course is not the 10-month course. The part-time course is actually a 20-month, so almost 2-year course. And that starts, I believe, only once a year around February. So we had it in February start, but don't pin me down on that. Maybe we're going to have one later in the year. So I don't know that because I'm not part of the sales team. But just so you know, the next one coming up is the standard 10-month course. And it says on the website, it says 12th of May, but it's 2nd of June. There we go. Apologies. So that's going to be and thank you for letting us know.
TJ, I can email you afterwards, okay, just to clarify those dates. All right. Thanks again for your time, everyone. Have a wonderful afternoon. Thanks for joining us for your lunch break, and we'll see you at the next info session.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.
See you later. Bye.
Yeah.